The year was 1452, when Xavier's Europe was standing at the threshold of a new age, an age of discovery, invention, and rebirth. This period, known as the Renaissance, was stirring in the cities of Florence, Venice, and Milan. Artists, philosophers, and scientists were beginning to challenge centuries of tradition, daring to ask questions about nature, humanity, and the cosmos. But on the night of April 15th, in the quiet Tuscan countryside, far from the centers of power and learning, a child was born who would come to embody the very spirit of this new era. His name was Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo's birth was humble. He entered the world in the small village of Anciano, near the town of Vinci, a community surrounded by rolling hills, olive groves, and vineyards. The landscape was serene and timeless, yet it would leave a lasting impression on the boy. The beauty of Tuscany, its light, its colors, its patterns of nature, would shape the way he saw the world for the rest of his life. His parents came from very different worlds. His father, Sir Piero da Vinci, was a well-respected notary, a man of education and status. His mother, Caterina, was a young peasant woman with no claim to nobility. Their union was brief and unofficial, and Leonardo was born illegitimate. In Renaissance Italy, this was no small matter. Being illegitimate meant Leonardo could not inherit his father's position or follow him into the legal profession. For many, this might have been seen as a disadvantage, but for Leonardo, it freed him from expectation and opened the possibility of a different kind of life, one shaped not by tradition, but by curiosity and imagination. As a child, Leonardo was surrounded not by the strict routines of city life, but by nature itself. The Tuscan countryside became his first classroom. He watched the movement of the rivers that carved valleys into the land. He studied the patterns of leaves and the way vines coiled as they grew. He marveled at the changing colors of the sky as the sun dipped behind the hills. Every detail, every sound, every motion caught his attention. Where others saw ordinary scenery, Leonardo saw secrets waiting to be unlocked. This early environment awakened in him what would become his greatest gift: the ability to observe deeply, to notice what others overlooked, and to question what others accepted without thought. Though his formal education was limited, Leonardo displayed remarkable talents from a young age. He learned basic reading, writing, and arithmetic, but Latin, the scholarly language of the time, largely escaped him. To the learned elite of Florence, this might have marked him as unrefined, even uneducated. But knowledge does not always come from books, and for Leonardo, the world itself was a library. Instead of memorizing texts, he sketched the wings of birds in flight. Instead of reciting ancient philosophy, he studied how water twisted into spirals as it flowed past stones. His classroom was the earth, his teachers were the patterns of nature, and his lessons were written not in ink, but in careful observation. From an early age, Leonardo showed an extraordinary talent for drawing. He would sketch landscapes, animals, and faces with an accuracy that startled those around him. Villagers and family members noticed his gift, and his father recognized that his son's abilities could not be wasted. These sketches, though simple at first, revealed something greater, a mind that could not merely copy the world, but interpret it, question it, and reimagine it. In Leonardo's young mind, there were no boundaries between art and science. To him, a sketch of a flower was not just a work of beauty, it was also a study in geometry, biology, and proportion. A drawing of a bird was at once a work of art and an investigation into the mysteries of flight. This way of thinking, of blending art with inquiry, imagination with analysis, would become the foundation of his genius. And so, in this small Tuscan village, the child who would later paint the Mona Lisa, design flying machines centuries before their time, and sketch the anatomy of the human body with breathtaking precision, was beginning his journey. The Renaissance had found its truest embodiment, not in the palaces of kings or the libraries of scholars, but in the curious eyes of a boy born outside the bonds of convention. Though no one could have known it then, the illegitimate child of a notary and a peasant would grow to redefine the boundaries of human potential. The seeds of greatness were planted in the hills of Vinci, where a boy wandered among rivers and trees, sketching, questioning, and dreaming. This was the beginning. This was the birth of Leonardo da Vinci, the boy who would one day be remembered as the ultimate Renaissance man, a genius whose vision reached beyond his time and whose legacy would inspire the world for centuries to come. As Leonardo entered his teenage years, his father, Sir Piero da Vinci, began to notice something remarkable. The boy's sketches, often made with nothing more than ink on scraps of paper, carried a lifelike quality that went beyond mere talent. They possessed depth, detail, and a sensitivity to light and form that hinted at greatness. Sir Perrault, recognizing that his son's future lay not in law or farming, but in art, decided to present his work to one of Florence's most respected artists, Andrea del Verrocchio. Florence in the mid-15th century was no ordinary city. It was the beating heart of the Italian Renaissance, alive with painters, sculptors, architects, and thinkers who were reshaping the way people viewed the world. The Medici family, powerful patrons of the arts, fueled this cultural explosion, commissioning works that blended beauty with humanist ideals. To walk through Florence in those days was to be surrounded by genius, and into this environment, young Leonardo would be thrust. Verrocchio's workshop was more than just an artist's studio. It was a school of the arts and sciences, a place where apprentices learned not only painting and sculpture, but also engineering, metallurgy, mechanics, and design. The workshop was filled with activity, apprentices grinding pigments, carving marble, sketching studies of anatomy, or designing stage machinery for public festivals. For a boy with boundless curiosity, it was paradise. Here, Leonardo's training began in earnest. He learned how to prepare paints, how to grind minerals and plants into vibrant pigments, how to stretch canvases, and how to mix tempera. He practiced drawing endlessly, for in Renaissance art, drawing was the foundation of everything. His early sketches show a hand that was quick, precise, and imaginative. Unlike many of his peers, Leonardo drew not just what he saw, but also what he imagined. Verrocchio himself was a talented painter, sculptor, and goldsmith. He recognized Leonardo's brilliance quickly. One story passed down through history tells of Verrocchio working on a painting called The Baptism of Christ. He allowed Leonardo, still an apprentice, to paint one of the angels. When Verrocchio saw the result, Leonardo's angel, so delicate, luminous, and lifelike, he was said to have put down his brush, convinced he could never match his pupil's skill. Whether myth or truth, the story reflects what many would later agree upon, that Leonardo's talent was so extraordinary, it eclipsed even his masters. But Leonardo's education extended far beyond painting. In Verrocchio's workshop, he was introduced to the mechanical arts. He studied gears, pulleys, levers, and weights, sketching them in his notebooks with astonishing accuracy. He helped design machines for festivals, elaborate devices that made angels fly across church ceilings or dragons breathe fire during parades. These spectacles may have been entertainment, but for Leonardo, they were also exercises in engineering and imagination. His fascination with anatomy also began during these years. Apprentices often studied the human body to improve their art, but Leonardo took this further. He observed muscles, tendons, and the movement of limbs, making sketches that blended artistry with science. The young apprentice was already showing signs of becoming something more than a painter. He was becoming a thinker who saw no boundaries between disciplines. He was becoming a thinker who saw no boundaries between disciplines. Yet Leonardo was not without his struggles. Being illegitimate, he lacked the formal education and status that many of his peers enjoyed. He often wrote in mirror script, from right to left, perhaps as a way of concealing his ideas, or simply because he was left-handed. He was also known to be distractible, starting many projects, but leaving them unfinished, a trait that would follow him throughout his life. But what some saw as weakness, others saw as the restless energy of a mind too vast to be contained by a single task. By the end of his apprenticeship, Leonardo had mastered the techniques of the Renaissance artist and more. He could sculpt, design, engineer, and paint with unparalleled skill. He was no longer simply a boy from Vinci. He was now an artist ready to step into the vibrant cultural world of Florence, a city where he would face rivals, patrons, and opportunities that would shape his destiny. In the crucible of Verrocchio's workshop, Leonardo da Vinci was transformed. From a curious child who sketched rivers and birds, he had become an apprentice of the Renaissance, armed with the skills, knowledge, and imagination to change the world. This was not the end of his education, it was only the beginning. By the early 1470s, Leonardo da Vinci was no longer just an apprentice under Verrocchio. He was ready to step into the world as an independent artist. He had spent years mastering the techniques of drawing, painting, and sculpture, and now Florence itself would become his canvas. At this time, Florence was not only a political power, but also a city of art, where patrons competed to commission works that displayed their wealth and refinement. For a young artist of Leonardo's talents, opportunity was everywhere. Leonardo's earliest known works emerged from this period. Some were collaborations within Verrocchio's workshop, others were private commissions. Among these was the famous story of the baptism of Christ. Verrocchio painted the central figure of Christ, but entrusted one of the angels to Leonardo. The difference was striking. Where Verrocchio's brushwork was strong but somewhat rigid, Leonardo's angel glowed with softness and vitality, the figure's flowing hair, the subtle shadows across its face, and the serene expression revealed a depth that went beyond technique. It was as if Leonardo had breathed life into paint. To many, this was the first unmistakable sign of his genius. Another early masterpiece attributed to Leonardo was the Annunciation. In this painting, the angel Gabriel greets the Virgin Mary with a gesture of divine calm. What set Leonardo's version apart was not just the figures, but the landscape. Behind Mary stretched rolling hills and distant mountains, painted with extraordinary detail. Using the technique of sfumato, subtle gradations of tone that blurred the boundaries of forms, Leonardo created an atmosphere of soft, hazy light that mirrored the natural world with uncanny realism. It was not simply religious art, it was nature itself woven into the fabric of faith. Leonardo also painted portraits during this time, though few survive. One of the most famous is the portrait of Ginevra de' Benci, a young noblewoman from a wealthy Florentine family. Unlike the stiff, formal portraits of his contemporaries, Leonardo infused Ginevra with individuality. Her gaze is direct yet contemplative, her features illuminated by soft shadows that suggest depth and emotion. Behind her, a juniper bush, a play on her name, Ginevra adds symbolic meaning, while the distant background hints at Leonardo's growing fascination with landscapes. To this day, art historians marvel at the portrait's psychological depth, considering it one of the earliest examples of portraiture that truly captures the inner life of its subject. What made Leonardo's early works so distinctive was his refusal to separate art from observation. Every feather on a wing, every fold of fabric, every beam of light was studied with precision. He would spend hours examining how light fell upon an object, how shadows deepened as the sun set, how water rippled when disturbed. His art was not only a reflection of religious or cultural ideals, it was a mirror of the natural world, filtered through a mind that saw patterns and harmony everywhere. Yet despite his growing reputation, Leonardo's career was not without obstacles. Florence was home to many brilliant artists, including Sandro Botticelli, Domenico Ghirlandaio, and a younger Michelangelo, who would later become his rival. Commissions were competitive, and Leonardo, still in his 20s, struggled at times to secure the grand projects he longed for. His reputation as a perfectionist also grew. He often worked slowly, unwilling to deliver a painting until it matched the vision in his mind. This habit sometimes frustrated patrons, but also hinted at the extraordinary standards he set for himself. By the late 1470s, Leonardo had established himself as one of Florence's most promising young artists. His name was beginning to spread beyond the city, and his talents were attracting the attention of powerful patrons. These early masterpieces, the Baptism of Christ, the Annunciation, and the portrait of Ginevra de' Benci, were more than just works of art. They were declarations of a new kind of vision, one that fused observation, imagination, and technical mastery into something the world had never seen before. For Leonardo, however, painting was never enough. Even as he produced these works, his notebooks were filling with sketches of machines, studies of anatomy, and designs for inventions. The seeds of his restless genius were already growing, and soon an opportunity would come that would change the course of his life, an invitation to leave Florence and enter the court of Milan, where his talents as both artist and engineer would flourish on an even grander scale. This was the dawn of Leonardo's independence as an artist, the first glimpse of a genius who was only beginning to show the world what he could do. While Florence knew Leonardo da Vinci primarily as a gifted painter, those who spent time with him began to realize that his mind was far too vast to be contained by a single craft. Art was his foundation, but curiosity was his compass, and it led him into every corner of knowledge. For Leonardo, the world itself was a living puzzle, and each day offered a new mystery to solve. From his youth, he had questioned things that others accepted without hesitation. Why do birds stay aloft while humans remain bound to the earth? Why does water flow in spirals and eddies? How does light bend when it passes through glass? To most, these were idle questions, but to Leonardo, they were invitations, challenges whispered by nature, daring him to seek their answers. His notebooks from this period reveal a restless, searching mind, filled with sketches, mirror written notes, and diagrams. They document everything from the structure of flowers to designs for war machines. He would dissect plants to understand their growth, study the movement of clouds to predict storms, and experiment with how light reflected on different surfaces. In an age when knowledge was often compartmentalized, art in one corner, science in another, philosophy in yet another, Leonardo refused to see such divisions. For him, all knowledge was connected. One of his earliest passions was anatomy. Artists of the Renaissance often studied the human form to improve their work, but Leonardo's investigations went deeper. He obtained access to cadavers, rare and controversial at the time, and dissected them to understand the inner workings of muscles, bones, and organs. His drawings of hands, skulls, and internal organs reveal not just accuracy, but reverence. Where others might see lifeless flesh, Leonardo saw the intricate architecture of creation. To him, the human body was a machine, complex, beautiful, and designed with perfect harmony. But Leonardo's curiosity did not stop there. He was captivated by mechanics and engineering. In Verrocchio's workshop, he had been exposed to gears and pulleys, and now he expanded upon those ideas with astonishing imagination. He sketched designs for machines that could dig canals, lift heavy stones, or even propel ships. Some of his concepts, like the armored tank, the self-propelled cart, and the aerial screw, a primitive version of the helicopter, were centuries ahead of their time. Though few were built during his life, his visions foreshadowed technologies that would only emerge in the modern era. Nature itself was his greatest teacher. Leonardo observed the way birds glided effortlessly through the air and tried to replicate their wings with human-made devices. He studied the flow of rivers, drawing intricate maps of currents and whirlpools. He examined fossils and speculated about the age of the earth, daring to suggest that seas once covered the mountains of Tuscany. Long before modern geology, he was asking questions about the planet's history. What set Leonardo apart was not just his brilliance, but his way of thinking. He combined relentless observation with imagination, logic with intuition. Where others saw a bird, he saw the possibility of human flight. Where others saw a simple stream, he saw the mathematics of motion. He was, in every sense, a pioneer, not content to follow established paths, but determined to carve out his own. Yet this insatiable curiosity came with challenges. Leonardo's interests were so vast that he often struggled to finish projects. Patrons who commissioned paintings sometimes grew impatient as he turned his attention to anatomy or mechanics instead. But this was the paradox of Leonardo da Vinci. His genius lay not in focusing on one thing, but in seeing the connections between everything. By the late 1470s, it was clear that Leonardo was not merely an artist. He was a thinker, an inventor, and a scientist, though those words barely capture the full scope of his mind. He was something rarer, a man who saw the unity of knowledge, who believed that art, science, and nature were all threads in the same grand tapestry. Florence admired him as a painter, but destiny had larger plans. Soon his talents would attract the attention of rulers and patrons beyond the city, men who would call upon Leonardo not just for portraits or altarpieces, but for his ability to imagine the impossible. The boy who once sketched birds in the hills of Vinci was becoming something the world had never seen before. the Renaissance man in its truest form, a mind that reached beyond art into every realm of human thought. By the early 1480s, Leonardo da Vinci had begun to establish a reputation in Florence. He had produced admired works of art, proven himself a gifted engineer and designer, and filled countless pages of notebooks with sketches that revealed both brilliance and imagination. Yet, despite his talent, Florence was not the place where Leonardo would fully flourish. Opportunities were limited, competition among artists was fierce, and his restless mind longed for a stage vast enough to match his ambition. That stage would be found in Milan, under the patronage of one of Italy's most powerful rulers, Ludovico Sforza, known as Il Moro. Florence may have been the cultural heart of the Renaissance, but Milan was a city of wealth, military strength, and political influence. The Sforza family ruled it with both elegance and iron, and Ludovico, eager to assert his authority and surround himself with splendor, sought artists, engineers, and architects who could glorify his court. For a man like Leonardo, whose talents spanned all these fields, it was the perfect match. Leonardo did not simply ask for employment in Milan. He crafted one of history's most extraordinary resumes. In a letter to Ludovico, he scarcely mentioned painting at all. Instead, he presented himself as a military engineer, boasting of designs for bridges, armored vehicles, cannons, and fortifications. He promised machines that could drain moats, tunnels that could collapse enemy walls, and weapons capable of reshaping the battlefield. He wrote of his skills in architecture and hydraulics, offering to design canals and buildings that would stand as marvels of their age. Only at the end of his letter, almost as an afterthought, did he add that he could also paint and sculpt as well as anyone alive. This audacious approach worked. Ludovico Sforza, impressed by Leonardo's versatility, welcomed him to Milan. Around 1482, Leonardo left Florence, the city of his childhood, training, and first masterpieces, and embarked on a new chapter in his life. In Milan, Leonardo found something he had long craved: stability and patronage. Unlike the competitive and politically turbulent environment of Florence, Ludovico's court provided steady work, ample resources, and an appreciative audience for his many talents. The Duke saw in Leonardo not only an artist, but also a visionary who could serve Milan's ambitions in war, spectacle, and prestige. Here, Leonardo's role expanded dramatically. He was tasked with designing weapons of war and fortifications, but also with creating stage machinery for court entertainments, elaborate theatrical productions where gods descended from the heavens or entire landscapes transformed before the audience's eyes. His mechanical genius dazzled courtiers and cemented his reputation as a man who could make the impossible seem real. Yet it was not only in engineering that Leonardo thrived. In Milan, he undertook commissions that would become some of his most enduring masterpieces. He began work on the Last Supper, a painting that would transform Christian art forever. He sketched designs for an enormous equestrian statue, intended to honor Ludovico's father, Francesco Sforza, a project so ambitious that it would challenge the very limits of sculpture. He also continued his scientific studies, dissecting bodies, examining plants, and filling his notebooks with insights that spanned every field imaginable. Milan was more than just a place of work. It was a laboratory, a stage, and a sanctuary for Leonardo's boundless curiosity. The city allowed him to pursue painting, science, and invention all at once, without the constant interruptions and rivalries of Florence. In the service of Ludovico Sforza, Leonardo was free to experiment, to dream, and to create on a scale that matched the vastness of his imagination. But this move to Milan was not only a change of city, it was a turning point in his life. Leonardo had left behind the shadow of apprenticeship and the narrow confines of his Florentine beginnings. He was now stepping into the role of court genius, an artist-engineer whose mind was sought not just for beauty, but for power. It was in Milan that Leonardo da Vinci would rise from being a promising young artist to becoming a figure of legend, a man whose works would define not only his time, but the very idea of what it meant to be a Renaissance genius. In the refectory of the Dominican convent of Santa Maria delle Grazie in Milan, there exists a painting so powerful that it has transcended centuries of decay, neglect, and war to remain one of the most recognized masterpieces in history. Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper would cement his legacy not merely as a painter, but as a visionary capable of translating human emotion, divine mystery, and scientific precision onto a wall. When Ludovico Sforza, the Duke of Milan, commissioned the work in the mid-1490s, it was intended to glorify his rule and immortalize his family. But for Leonardo, it was more than just a commission. It was a challenge to reimagine one of Christianity's most depicted scenes, the moment when Christ announces that one of his disciples will betray him. Previous artists had portrayed the Last Supper in stiff, static compositions, Christ at the center, the disciples seated in orderly rows, solemn and restrained. Leonardo rejected this approach. He envisioned the scene as a drama of the human soul, capturing the instant when Christ's shocking revelation disrupts the gathering. He placed Christ in the center, serene and resigned, forming a perfect triangular shape, a symbol of stability, divinity, and eternity. Around him, the 12 apostles explode with motion, their faces contorted with shock, anger, disbelief, and fear. Some lean forward in protest, others recoil, whisper, or gesture wildly. In a single moment, Leonardo froze an entire range of human emotions, a psychological narrative unparalleled in religious art. But Leonardo was not content with conventional fresco techniques. Traditional fresco required painting rapidly on wet plaster, limiting detail and subtlety. Leonardo, obsessed with light and texture, experimented with a new method, tempera and oil on dry plaster. This allowed him to achieve astonishing detail in facial expressions, delicate shadows, and the luminous folds of garments. Unfortunately, this innovation came at a cost. The experimental medium was unstable. Within just a few decades, the masterpiece began to deteriorate, flaking and fading. Yet despite its fragility, the brilliance of Leonardo's vision endured. Art historians have studied his use of perspective, arranging the room and lines of the architecture so that they draw the viewer's eye naturally to Christ at the center. The meticulous attention to proportion, symmetry, and emotion transformed the painting into both a religious work and a scientific study of human behavior. The creation of the Last Supper was not without challenges. Leonardo delayed its completion, experimenting endlessly with composition and expression. He observed his models, sketched countless studies of hands, faces, and gestures, and even used local townspeople as references for the apostles. Every detail, from the folds of robes to the scattering of dishes on the table, was meticulously considered. When completed, the painting astonished viewers with its dramatic intensity and realism, For the first time, a sacred scene did not feel distant or idealized. It felt alive. The apostles were human, with reactions as varied as any real gathering. Christ was both divine and approachable, calm amid the chaos surrounding him. The Last Supper would inspire countless artists over the centuries, influencing painting, theater, and even psychology, as Leonardo captured the intricate interplay of human emotion in a single frozen moment. Though the painting would suffer from centuries of damage, war, and restoration, its impact remains immeasurable. It was a work born not just of skill but of imagination, observation, and an understanding of humanity that only Leonardo could convey. In completing this masterpiece, Leonardo da Vinci demonstrated not only his extraordinary talent as a painter, but also his ability to see the world differently, blending art, science, and human emotion into a single timeless vision. The Last Supper would become a benchmark of genius, a testament to what a mind as vast as Leonardo's could achieve. While Leonardo da Vinci is celebrated for his art, his genius extended far beyond painting, drawing him into the intricate world of engineering, mechanics, and military design. In Milan, under the patronage of Ludovico Sforza, Leonardo became not only an artist, but a visionary inventor, tackling the practical demands of both warfare and urban planning. This was a world where survival depended on ingenuity, where a single invention could alter the fate of a city, and where Leonardo's insatiable curiosity found endless challenges to explore. Leonardo approached every mechanical problem with the same meticulous observation he applied to the human body or the natural landscape. His notebooks reveal a mind obsessed with movement, force, and precision. Sketches of catapults, crossbows, and multi-barreled cannons illustrate his understanding of the physics behind destructive force. Yet these machines are drawn with an artist's eye for elegance and proportion. Unlike many engineers of his era, Leonardo treated mechanics as a living system, considering how every gear, lever, and hinge interacted within a larger whole. Each design was simultaneously functional and poetic, a marriage of science and art. The Duke of Milan recognized Leonardo's extraordinary talents and commissioned him to design fortifications and weapons capable of defending the city against external threats. Leonardo carefully studied the landscape, observing how rivers, hills, and walls could influence both offense and defense. He designed canals that could serve as moats, bridges that could be rapidly assembled or dismantled, and mechanisms to move troops and supplies efficiently. He theorized machines that could lift enormous weights, siege engines capable of breaching the most formidable walls, and armored vehicles intended to strike terror into enemy formations. Every invention was informed by careful measurements, experiments, and a deep understanding of natural forces. Yet, Leonardo's engineering mind was not solely focused on destruction. Many of his designs reveal a desire to improve life, explore human potential, and master the natural world. His sketches include flying machines inspired by the anatomy of birds, mechanical knights capable of walking and moving their arms, and intricate systems for transporting water or powering mills. Even in the context of war, Leonardo's creativity reflected a profound respect for balance, efficiency, and innovation. He sought to transform chaos into order, danger into opportunity, and theoretical concepts into tangible reality. Despite the brilliance of his designs, few of Leonardo's inventions were constructed in his lifetime. The technological limitations of the 15th century often rendered his ideas impractical, and many remained as delicate sketches in fragile notebooks. Yet the conceptual foresight behind these designs was astonishing. Centuries later, engineers and scientists would recognize that Leonardo had envisioned mechanisms that predated modern robotics, hydraulics, and even aviation. His work blurred the line between art and science, suggesting that imagination alone could propel humanity forward. Leonardo's time in Milan also revealed his relentless dedication to observation and experimentation. He tested the principles behind pulleys, levers, and gears, sometimes constructing small prototypes or conducting rudimentary experiments. He recorded each result with meticulous detail, annotating sketches with measurements, formulas, and philosophical reflections on motion, energy, and efficiency. In doing so, Leonardo demonstrated that true genius arises not from inspiration alone, but from disciplined inquiry, rigorous study, and a willingness to explore the unknown. Milan became both Leonardo's canvas and his laboratory. Within the walls of the city, he could combine artistry with scientific inquiry, translating the abstract beauty of nature into mechanical precision. The same mind that could capture the emotional depth of the apostles in the Last Supper could calculate the exact tension needed in a lifting mechanism or the trajectory of a cannonball. Every invention, whether for war or peace, was an extension of his boundless curiosity, revealing a mind that could traverse disciplines effortlessly. Through his work as an engineer, Leonardo demonstrated that genius is not confined to a single domain. He was a creator of beauty, a master of mechanics, and a visionary who sought to understand and shape the world around him. His Milanese period stands as a testament to human ingenuity, a time when observation, imagination, and intellect combined to produce ideas that would resonate far beyond the limitations of his era. In designing machines, fortifications, and innovative tools, Leonardo da Vinci not only served the demands of his patron, but also carved a path for centuries of innovation, leaving a legacy that continues to inspire engineers, artists, and dreamers alike. Leonardo da Vinci's fascination with the human body was unparalleled in the Renaissance, a time when the study of anatomy was still in its infancy and often hindered by religious and social restrictions. Unlike many of his contemporaries, who relied on imagination or second-hand descriptions to depict the human form, Leonardo sought a deeper truth, a true understanding of the body's inner workings. For him, anatomy was not merely a tool for artistic accuracy, it was a gateway to comprehending the mysteries of life itself. Leonardo's journey into anatomy began in earnest in Florence, where he had access to physicians and scholars and could obtain cadavers for dissection, a practice that was both controversial and rare at the time. These dissections required immense courage and careful handling, as the process was socially and legally fraught. Yet Leonardo approached each one with meticulous care, a mixture of scientific curiosity and profound respect for the human form. With scalpel in hand, he explored the layers of the body, from skin to muscle to bone, documenting every observation with unmatched precision. His notebooks, filled with sketches and mirrored handwriting, reveal a mind that observed not only what the eye could see, but also the principles and mechanics beneath the surface. Leonardo studied the skeletal structure in painstaking detail, recording the shapes, connections, and proportions of bones with such accuracy that modern anatomists have noted their correctness even by today's standards. He traced the contours of the rib cage, the angles of the spine, and the intricate joints of the hands and feet, always noting how these structures allowed movement and supported the body's weight. Beyond bones, Leonardo turned his attention to the muscles and tendons, exploring how they contract, flex, and interact to produce movement. He dissected the arms and legs, the neck, and the torso, carefully recording how individual muscles worked in tandem with others. His sketches reveal a fascination with mechanics. He viewed the human body as a complex machine where every part had a role, every movement had a cause, and every structure contributed to the elegant efficiency of life. This mechanical perspective distinguished him from other artists and thinkers of his time, merging artistic observation with scientific inquiry. Leonardo's curiosity extended to the organs and internal systems. He studied the heart, mapping its chambers and valves, and tracing the flow of blood through the body. He dissected the brain, examining its lobes, ventricles, and the intricate network of nerves, attempting to understand the connection between mind and body. He observed the lungs, the digestive system, and the kidneys, annotating his sketches with notes on their function, structure, and importance. Even embryology captured his attention. He illustrated the development of the human fetus in the womb, revealing a level of insight that would astonish scholars centuries later. What makes Leonardo's anatomical work so extraordinary is the fusion of scientific rigor and artistic expression. Each illustration is a masterpiece of clarity and detail, where precision meets beauty. The curvature of a muscle, the spiral of the intestines, and the intricate design of the eye are depicted with an elegance that conveys both information and aesthetic wonder. His use of light, shadow, and perspective allowed him to depict three-dimensional structures on flat pages with remarkable realism, giving viewers a sense of depth and movement that was unprecedented. Leonardo did not limit himself to merely recording what he saw. He asked questions, hypothesized functions, and connected observations across systems. He speculated on the mechanics of the heart, theorized about the circulation of blood, and studied how the eye perceives color and light. His investigations were holistic. He sought to understand not only the form, but the function, the purpose, and the principles that governed human life. He recognized patterns, drew analogies between different parts of the body, and explored how natural laws shaped anatomy and movement. Despite the brilliance of his work, much of Leonardo's anatomical research remained unpublished during his lifetime, hidden within the pages of his notebooks, often overlooked or misunderstood by his contemporaries. The depth and accuracy of his studies would only be fully appreciated centuries later, revealing him as a pioneer whose insights foreshadowed modern medicine, physiology, and biomechanics. His drawings became an enduring testament to the union of art and science, a symbol of the Renaissance ideal that beauty and knowledge are inseparable. Leonardo da Vinci's mind was never content with what already existed. He constantly sought to imagine, design, and build things that could defy the limits of his time. While he is best known as a painter, his notebooks reveal a relentless curiosity about mechanics, physics, and engineering. He approached the world as a giant workshop, a place full of levers, pulleys, gears, and hidden principles waiting to be discovered. For Leonardo, every movement, every force, and every machine was a puzzle to be solved. From a young age, Leonardo was fascinated by flight. He observed birds, noting how they spread their wings, glide, and rise with the wind. He carefully studied the anatomy of wings, feathers, and muscles, trying to understand the forces that allowed birds to soar through the sky. These observations fueled his dream of human flight. He sketched designs for ornithopters, machines that mimicked the flapping of bird wings, as well as heavier than air gliders intended to carry a person into the air. Though these machines were never built in his lifetime, they demonstrated an understanding of aerodynamics centuries ahead of his time. But Leonardo's genius extended far beyond flight. He designed bridges that could span wide rivers, using principles of weight distribution and tension that were revolutionary in the 15th century. One notable design was a self-supporting bridge, constructed from interlocking wooden beams that required no nails or ropes, an idea so advanced that modern engineers have successfully built it, following Leonardo's sketches. He also devised drawbridges, revolving bridges, and multi-level structures, all reflecting his deep understanding of geometry, forces, and materials. In addition to structural engineering, Leonardo's creativity touched military devices. He conceptualized armored vehicles, early versions of tanks, with rotating cannon turrets and protective plating. He drew intricate designs for catapults, crossbows, and multi-barreled cannons, blending mechanical innovation with strategic thinking. These designs showcased his ability to imagine not just individual machines, but systems of movement, coordination, and efficiency. While many were never built due to technical or political limitations, they reveal a mind constantly thinking about how machines could interact with the physical world. Leonardo was also deeply interested in hydraulics and water management. He sketched plans for canals, water wheels, and even intricate systems to drain swamps, redirect rivers, and power mills. By observing the flow of water and experimenting with models, he applied principles of fluid dynamics long before they were formally described in scientific texts. His notebooks contain detailed studies of eddies, currents, and vortices, showing that he saw water not as a passive element, but as a force that could be harnessed for human use. Even the simplest machines captured Leonardo's attention. He meticulously drew gears, pulleys, screws, and wheels, understanding how these components could amplify force, transfer motion, or create complex mechanisms. Many of these sketches resemble the foundation of modern engineering: cranes, hoists, rotating mills, and even primitive robots. One design for a mechanical knight, capable of sitting, raising its visor, and moving its arms, demonstrates Leonardo's blend of artistry and engineering. He combined anatomical knowledge, mechanical insight, and creative imagination to envision devices that were both functional and lifelike. What makes Leonardo's inventions remarkable is not only their innovation, but the integration of science and art. He drew each machine with extraordinary clarity, using perspective, cross-sections, and exploded views to show how every part functioned. His sketches are not only technical manuals, but works of art, revealing a mind capable of seeing beauty in both form and function. Leonardo's notebooks are filled with annotations, calculations, and ideas, showing a constant process of experimentation, failure, and refinement. Despite the brilliance of his designs, many were never realized in his lifetime, limited by the materials and technologies available in the 15th century, yet his ideas endured, inspiring generations of inventors and engineers. Leonardo's vision of human flight, mechanized machines, and engineered structures foreshadowed inventions that would only become reality centuries later, from airplanes to modern bridges and robotic devices. Leonardo da Vinci was not only an inventor and scientist, but also a revolutionary painter whose works continue to captivate the world centuries later. His approach to painting was guided by the same curiosity, observation, and attention to detail that defined his scientific studies. For Leonardo, painting was not just an art form, it was a way of understanding the world. Every shadow, gesture, and expression was a clue to the natural order, the human form, and the subtle emotions that define life. One of Leonardo's most revolutionary contributions to art was his technique of sfumato, a method of blending colors and tones so subtly that there are no harsh lines or borders. This allowed him to create a sense of soft transitions and atmospheric depth, making his figures appear almost alive. In the famous portrait of the Mona Lisa, the sfumato technique gives her enigmatic smile its mysterious quality. Her expression seems to shift depending on the viewer's perspective, a subtle interplay of light and shadow that Leonardo achieved through countless layers of delicate paint. Leonardo's mastery of anatomy was central to his artistry. He dissected human bodies to study muscles, bones, and the movement of joints, documenting every observation in meticulous sketches. These studies allowed him to depict the human form with unprecedented accuracy, capturing not only physical details, but also the underlying mechanics of movement. This scientific approach is evident in works such as The Last Supper, where the gestures, postures, and expressions of each disciple convey emotion and narrative with incredible precision. Every hand, every glance, every reaction contributes to the story Leonardo tells on the canvas. Perspective and composition were also key to Leonardo's paintings. He studied geometry and optics to arrange his subjects in a way that guided the viewer's eye naturally through the scene. In The Last Supper, he used linear perspective to create the illusion of depth, making the room appear three-dimensional. The careful placement of figures, the vanishing lines of the walls, and the subtle use of light and shadow all combine to draw attention to the central figure of Christ, highlighting the moment of revelation and human drama. Color, too, was a medium through which Leonardo expressed both realism and emotion. He experimented with pigments, layering translucent glazes to achieve luminosity and richness that were unparalleled at the time. He understood how colors interact with light and shadow, and he manipulated these elements to create lifelike skin tones, glowing fabrics, and the atmospheric backgrounds that give his paintings a sense of reality beyond mere representation. Leonardo's notebooks reveal that he often approached painting like a scientist approaching an experiment. He meticulously planned compositions, studied lighting, experimented with materials, and recorded observations, constantly refining his technique. This methodical approach is why his works endure. They are the result of both inspiration and rigorous study. Every detail, from the curl of a hair to the tilt of a head, was carefully considered to evoke authenticity and emotion. Despite completing relatively few paintings, Leonardo's impact on art was profound. His works broke away from the flat, symbolic styles of earlier periods, introducing depth, emotion, and realism that would influence generations of artists. His ability to combine scientific understanding with artistic expression set a new standard for the Renaissance and for art itself. Through his paintings, Leonardo da Vinci taught the world that art is not only a reflection of reality, but also a tool for exploration and understanding. He merged observation, imagination, and technical skill to create works that resonate on multiple levels, visually, emotionally, and intellectually. The Mona Lisa, The Last Supper, and countless sketches and unfinished pieces continue to remind us of a mind that could see the invisible forces shaping both nature and human experience, translating them onto canvas with grace, precision, and insight. Leonardo's legacy as a painter is inseparable from his identity as a Renaissance genius. He approached the act of painting with the same curiosity, experimentation, and reverence for knowledge that defined his life, leaving behind masterpieces that are as scientifically informed as they are artistically profound. Every brushstroke, every shadow, every gaze tells a story of a man who sought not just to depict the world, but to understand it in its deepest truth. Leonardo da Vinci's fascination with the human body went far beyond the surface of skin and bone. From an early age, he was obsessed with understanding how life functions, believing that true art required an intimate knowledge of anatomy. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Leonardo approached the study of the human form not merely to paint or sculpt it, but as a scientist seeking truth, precision, and insight. To accomplish this, Leonardo undertook the unprecedented and controversial practice of dissecting human corpses. Hospitals and monasteries granted him rare permission to study cadavers, allowing him to observe muscles, tendons, bones, and organs firsthand. Each dissection was recorded with meticulous sketches and notes, combining artistic skill with scientific observation. He often documented multiple layers of the body, peeling back skin to reveal muscles, then muscles to reveal bones, and sometimes even tracing the intricate network of veins and arteries. Through these studies, Leonardo began to uncover the mechanics of the human body. He was particularly fascinated by muscle movement and joint articulation, seeking to understand how bones and muscles work together to produce motion. He dissected hands, legs, and the spine, producing drawings that remain among the most accurate and detailed anatomical illustrations ever created. His notes reveal a mind tirelessly curious, questioning the function of every structure, and often theorizing about how humans move, breathe, and circulate blood. One of Leonardo's most remarkable insights was his observation of the heart and circulatory system. Long before William Harvey formally described blood circulation, Leonardo had studied the heart as a pump, noting the way valves regulate the flow of blood. He sketched the chambers, valves, and vessels in intricate detail, combining artistry with empirical observation. These sketches reveal a scientific mind centuries ahead of its time, bridging the gap between anatomy, physiology, and engineering. Leonardo's anatomical drawings were more than scientific diagrams, they were works of art. Each sketch is a testament to his skill in rendering texture, proportion, and perspective, capturing the delicate interplay of form and function. He often labeled parts with mirror writing, possibly to keep his ideas private, or simply because it came more naturally to him. The result was a vast collection of notes and illustrations that would eventually be compiled in notebooks like the Codex Atlanticus and the Codex Leicester, containing insights that would continue to inspire both artists and scientists for centuries. But Leonardo did not stop with the human body. He applied the same analytical curiosity to animals, plants, and even the mechanics of nature. He dissected birds to study their flight, examining the structure of wings and the interplay of muscles and feathers. He explored the anatomy of horses, demonstrating an extraordinary understanding of their skeletal and muscular systems, knowledge that would later inform his designs for equestrian statues. Leonardo's anatomical work exemplifies the Renaissance ideal of the polymath, someone who merges art, science, and philosophy to understand the world in its totality. His investigations were driven by a single principle: to see clearly, one must observe carefully. By combining visual accuracy with scientific inquiry, Leonardo created a legacy that transcended disciplines, revealing the human body not only as a subject of beauty, but as a machine of astounding complexity and harmony. Even though many of his anatomical studies were not published during his lifetime, they survived to influence future generations of scientists, doctors, and artists. Leonardo da Vinci's notebooks remain a testament to the power of curiosity, precision, and interdisciplinary thinking, showing us that the pursuit of knowledge can be both artistic and scientific, both poetic and empirical. Through his dissections, drawings, and relentless questioning, Leonardo revealed the hidden workings of life itself, leaving behind a legacy that continues to fascinate and enlighten the world centuries later. Leonardo da Vinci's mind was never satisfied with observing the world. He sought to reshape it, imagining machines and devices that could transform human life. In Milan and later Florence, Leonardo devoted countless hours to designing inventions that combined ingenuity, artistry, and mechanical precision. Unlike many of his contemporaries, his inventions were not mere sketches for show, they were functional concepts, carefully calculated to explore the limits of engineering. Among his most famous innovations were his war machines. Leonardo was commissioned to design fortifications, cannons, and even armored vehicles for rulers like Ludovico Sforza. He envisioned giant crossbows, multi-barreled cannons, and mobile armored carts designed to intimidate enemies and defend cities. While few of these machines were ever built, his sketches reveal a deep understanding of physics, leverage, and motion, illustrating a mind capable of translating abstract ideas into practical applications. But Leonardo's creativity was not limited to war. He was fascinated by the possibilities of flight. Inspired by the birds he observed gliding gracefully through the air. His notebooks are filled with designs for ornithopters, gliders, and flying machines, some powered by human effort, others by springs or pulleys. He studied the anatomy of wings, the dynamics of air currents, and the principles of lift and drag. Leonardo's flying machines were centuries ahead of their time, foreshadowing the principles of modern aviation. Water systems also captivated Leonardo. He designed canals, locks, and water lifting devices, aiming to improve transportation, irrigation, and city defense. His studies included hydraulic machines capable of raising water efficiently, as well as methods for diverting rivers and preventing floods. These designs reflected his ability to combine observation of nature with mechanical innovation, solving practical problems with creativity and precision. Leonardo's fascination with mechanics extended to smaller scale devices as well. He devised gears, pulleys, and intricate mechanisms, anticipating concepts that would later underpin modern engineering and robotics. One of his most famous creations was the mechanical knight, a humanoid automaton capable of sitting, raising its visor, and moving its arms. This invention demonstrated his interest in automation, anatomy, and the imitation of life, merging art and engineering in a way that was unprecedented for the Renaissance. Even as Leonardo designed these incredible machines, he never lost sight of the natural world. He believed that understanding nature was essential to creating effective inventions. Observing birds, horses, and even water flow, he sought to mimic natural processes in mechanical form, a principle that would inspire generations of engineers and inventors. His drawings often include precise annotations, detailing materials, dimensions, and the intended motion of each component. Despite the brilliance of his inventions, many were never constructed, limited by the technology and resources of his time. Yet Leonardo's visionary designs live on in his notebooks, preserved as a treasure trove of innovation, bridging art, science, and engineering. They reveal a mind that refused to accept limitations, always asking, "What if?" and imagining solutions beyond the reach of his contemporaries. Through his engineering work, Leonardo da Vinci showed that genius knows no boundaries. His inventions were not just tools, they were expressions of a mind driven by curiosity, observation, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge. Whether imagining flight, designing machines, or exploring the mechanics of nature, Leonardo's creations continue to inspire, reminding the world that innovation is both an art and a science, and that the limits of human imagination are only those we impose upon ourselves. In his later years, Leonardo da Vinci experienced a period of reflection, refinement, and recognition. Having spent decades in Florence, Milan, and other Italian cities, he carried with him a lifetime of observation, experimentation, and artistic mastery. By this time, Leonardo had become more than an artist or engineer. He was a universal genius, a figure whose insights spanned disciplines and whose reputation had begun to extend beyond Italy. During this period, Leonardo found himself under the patronage of powerful and influential figures who valued both his artistic skill and his inventive mind. Among them was Francis I of France, a young and ambitious king who admired Leonardo's intellect as much as his artistry. Francis invited Leonardo to France in 1516, offering him a residence at the Château du Clos-Lucé near the royal palace in Amboise. Here Leonardo spent the final years of his life in relative peace, surrounded by assistants, apprentices, and a wealth of his own creations. This period allowed Leonardo to reflect on his vast body of work. Though much of his earlier engineering remained unbuilt, he continued to sketch and design, often combining art and mechanics in small but intricate projects. He refined ideas for flying machines, water systems, and automata, demonstrating that even in later life, his curiosity was boundless. His notebooks from this period reveal a mature synthesis of observation and imagination, blending empirical study with visionary speculation. Leonardo also continued to paint, though fewer major works survive from these years. His focus shifted from grand public commissions to more personal and introspective projects. The portrait of Francis I, though completed posthumously by others, and other sketches from this period show Leonardo's continued fascination with human emotion, the subtleties of expression, and the interplay of light and shadow. He approached every subject with the same rigorous observation that had guided his anatomical studies, seeking not only likeness, but the essence of the individual. Beyond art, Leonardo's influence extended into the scientific community. His anatomical studies, engineering sketches, and explorations of physics, hydrodynamics, and mechanics were becoming a source of inspiration for future thinkers. While much of his work remained unpublished during his lifetime, it circulated among scholars, gradually shaping the Renaissance understanding of science and technology. Leonardo's approach, careful observation, detailed recording, and imaginative experimentation laid the foundation for the empirical methods that would later define modern science. Even as age and illness began to limit his physical activity, Leonardo remained intellectually vigorous. He mentored apprentices, including Francesco Melzi, who would inherit many of Leonardo's manuscripts and continue to preserve his legacy. Letters from this period reflect a man aware of his mortality, yet passionate about knowledge, urging his students to observe nature, question assumptions, and seek truth through careful study. Leonardo's final years in France were thus a blend of reflection, creation, and mentorship. He lived as a revered figure, sought after by royalty, yet still devoted to his personal quest for understanding. In 1519, Leonardo da Vinci passed away at the age of 67, leaving behind a legacy that was unmatched in scope and depth, an extraordinary life dedicated to exploring the boundaries of art, science, and human potential. His later years remind us that genius is not measured solely by accomplishments, but also by the relentless pursuit of knowledge, the courage to innovate, and the humility to continue learning, even at the height of fame and recognition. Leonardo's life in France embodies the final chapter of a journey that forever changed the world, leaving a blueprint for curiosity, creativity, and discovery that continues to inspire centuries later. In the final years of his life, Leonardo da Vinci turned his attention increasingly inward, focusing on works that were deeply personal, introspective, and reflective of his lifelong fascination with the mysteries of life and human nature. Unlike his earlier commissions, which often had public, religious, or political significance, these late works reveal a profound philosophical depth, where the visible world and the unseen forces of existence converge on canvas and paper. Leonardo's late paintings are characterized by a mastery of sfumato, delicate gradations of light and shadow, and an unparalleled ability to convey psychological complexity and emotional subtlety. One of the most iconic works from this period is the St. John the Baptist, painted during his final years in France. The painting portrays St. John emerging from a dark, undefined background, his body twisting slightly, and his finger raised in a gesture that points toward the heavens. This work exemplifies Leonardo's lifelong quest to combine technical precision with spiritual meaning. The figure's enigmatic smile, reminiscent of the Mona Lisa, conveys a sense of inner knowledge and mystery, drawing the viewer into a silent contemplation of the divine. Every shadow, every delicate transition of tone, and every curve of the figure's body demonstrates Leonardo's mastery of the human form and his ability to breathe life into paint. In addition to religious works, Leonardo explored mythological and symbolic subjects. Paintings such as the unfinished Bacchus reveal his fascination with the human body in motion, capturing gestures and expressions that convey emotional tension and subtle psychological states. Even unfinished, the painting communicates the dynamism and vitality Leonardo sought, in all his work. His late sketches and preparatory drawings from this period provide insight into his methodical yet imaginative approach as he carefully experimented with anatomy, light, and perspective to ensure that every figure appeared both lifelike and imbued with meaning. Leonardo's late period was also marked by a return to religious contemplation and spiritual exploration. He revisited themes of prophecy, salvation, and divine intervention, aiming to capture the invisible forces that shape human destiny. In his paintings, gestures, light, and composition are used not just for aesthetic effect, but as tools to evoke thought, emotion, and reflection. Figures are often enveloped in shadows, emerging from the darkness as though illuminated by an inner light, symbolizing the profound connection between knowledge, faith, and human experience. During these years, Leonardo also devoted himself to mentorship and the preservation of his work. He shared his vast knowledge with apprentices, encouraging them to study nature meticulously, practice observation of anatomy, and experiment fearlessly with materials. Francesco Melzi, his devoted pupil, became the custodian of Leonardo's notebooks, sketches, and designs, ensuring that his ideas, ranging from painting techniques to inventions, would survive long after his death. Through his mentorship, Leonardo's innovative approach to art, science, and observation was passed down, influencing countless artists and thinkers across generations. Leonardo's final works demonstrate a synthesis of his lifelong pursuits. The mastery of anatomy, perspective, and light achieved in his earlier years is now combined with an intense focus on human emotion, spiritual symbolism, and philosophical reflection. Each painting is a study of life itself, an exploration of the inner workings of the human mind, the soul, and the natural world. His late period reveals a man who, even in the twilight of his life, remained a relentless observer, a curious inventor, and a visionary artist whose imagination knew no bounds. Ultimately, these late works solidify Leonardo da Vinci's legacy as the quintessential Renaissance man. He transcended the role of painter or inventor, becoming a symbol of human potential, creativity, and intellectual pursuit. John the Baptist, the sketches of mythological and scientific subjects, and his unfinished masterpieces all serve as enduring testaments to a life dedicated to understanding the world in its fullest complexity. Leonardo's final years remind us that genius is not confined to technical skill alone, but is defined by the unending quest for knowledge, insight, and the expression of truth through art and discovery. Leonardo da Vinci's brilliance was not confined to the canvas. It extended into the realms of engineering, mechanics, and scientific observation, where his mind constantly explored the intersection of art and innovation. His notebooks are filled with sketches and designs that reveal a visionary thinker centuries ahead of his time. Machines that would not become practical until the Industrial Revolution, flying devices inspired by birds, and complex mechanisms for war and construction all flowed from his restless curiosity. Leonardo's inventive mind sought to understand and replicate nature, to harness its principles in ways that could benefit humanity and expand the boundaries of human capability. One of Leonardo's most famous pursuits was the dream of human flight. Inspired by the effortless glide of birds and the intricate motion of wings, he designed numerous flying machines, including the ornithopter, a device with flapping wings intended to lift a human into the air and early versions of parachutes and gliders. While these machines were never built during his lifetime, the sketches demonstrate an extraordinary understanding of aerodynamics and anatomy, revealing how he meticulously studied birds in flight, observing the mechanics of feathers, wing curvature, and air resistance. Leonardo's flying machines were not mere fantasies. They were scientifically reasoned explorations, blending observation, mathematics, and imagination. Beyond flight, Leonardo turned his inventive mind to hydraulics, mechanics, and engineering. He designed bridges that could span great distances with innovative support structures, intricate water lifting machines, and canal systems to improve irrigation and transportation. Many of his sketches show gears, pulleys, and other mechanisms that demonstrate a profound grasp of mechanical principles. He explored concepts such as the transmission of power, friction, and leverage, documenting them in exquisite detail. Leonardo's notebooks even include ideas for automata, mechanical figures capable of movement, anticipating the development of robotics centuries later. Leonardo's genius also extended into military engineering, where he designed weapons, fortifications, and siege devices. While some of these inventions were never realized, his approach combined artistry with practical engineering. He envisioned armored vehicles resembling early tanks, multi-barreled cannons, and defensive structures capable of withstanding attack. His designs were never solely for destruction. They also reflected a strategic mind concerned with efficiency, mobility, and innovation, demonstrating that Leonardo approached problems as both a scientist and an artist. In addition to mechanical inventions, Leonardo made pioneering contributions to anatomy and physiology. He dissected human and animal bodies, creating detailed anatomical sketches that surpassed anything previously attempted. These studies allowed him to understand muscle movement, joint mechanics, and internal organs with unprecedented accuracy. Leonardo's anatomical drawings reveal not only a scientific rigor, but also an artistic sensibility, capturing the elegance and complexity of the human form. By blending careful observation with artistic technique, he laid the groundwork for modern anatomy and influenced countless generations of both scientists and artists. Leonardo da Vinci's inventive work exemplifies the Renaissance ideal of universal knowledge. He refused to be constrained by a single discipline, instead exploring the world through multiple lenses: art, science, mathematics, and engineering, each informing the other. His designs, though often unbuilt, reflect a mind that sought to decode the laws of nature and apply them creatively, turning theoretical insight into practical possibility. Ultimately, Leonardo's contributions in invention and science are a testament to his relentless curiosity and visionary intellect. His notebooks, sketches, and ideas, preserved across centuries, continue to inspire engineers, scientists, and artists alike. They remind us that true genius lies not only in mastery of a craft, but in the unwavering pursuit of understanding, the courage to imagine the impossible, and the dedication to explore the hidden mechanisms of the world. Leonardo's inventions, whether realized or theoretical, solidify his place as a figure whose brilliance transcended his era and whose influence continues to resonate across disciplines today. Leonardo da Vinci's fascination with the human body and the natural world was a defining aspect of his genius, one that intertwined his artistic mastery with scientific curiosity. In the final years of his life, Leonardo da Vinci experienced a period of reflection, mobility, and continued creative experimentation. Having spent decades in Florence, Milan, and Rome, Leonardo eventually moved to France in 1516, invited by King Francis I, who recognized him not only as a master artist, but also as a visionary thinker, capable of contributing to science, engineering, and culture. Settling in the Chateau de Clos-Lucé, near the royal palace of Amboise, Leonardo enjoyed relative peace and the support of a patron who admired his genius, giving him the freedom to pursue projects, experiments, and ideas that transcended traditional artistic commissions. Despite his advancing age and declining health, Leonardo remained intensely productive. He continued to paint, refine sketches, and explore inventions, leaving a trail of notebooks filled with observations on mechanics, anatomy, architecture, hydraulics, and flight. During this time, he focused on personal works rather than large-scale commissions, producing pieces that reflected his deepening philosophical and spiritual inquiries. These late works, including sketches of angels, studies of water flow, and unfinished paintings, reveal a mind still captivated by the mysteries of nature, the intricacies of the human body, and the dynamics of the physical world. Leonardo's move to France also marked an important period of collaboration and mentorship. His pupils, particularly Francesco Melzi, accompanied him, learning from his methods and helping to preserve his extensive collection of sketches and notes. Through this relationship, Leonardo ensured that his knowledge would survive beyond his lifetime, allowing future generations to access his discoveries in both art and science. Melzi's meticulous care of Leonardo's manuscripts would later form the foundation for the Codex Atlanticus and other critical compilations of the master's work. During these years, Leonardo maintained an active intellectual curiosity about the world around him. He studied the effects of light and shadow on objects and landscapes, observed the patterns of rivers and clouds, and experimented with mechanical devices, including innovative designs for bridges, hydraulic machines, and even prototypes of flying machines. His approach remained consistent: careful observation of nature, meticulous recording of findings, and the application of artistic and scientific principles to create solutions that were both functional and elegant. Leonardo's health began to decline in his final years, yet he continued to work with extraordinary dedication. He painted and sketched until shortly before his death, always striving for perfection in the depiction of form, motion, and human emotion. Even unfinished works, such as studies for altarpieces or mechanical diagrams, exhibit his signature attention to detail, innovation, and imaginative power. His relentless pursuit of knowledge exemplifies a life devoted not merely to artistic achievement, but to understanding the fundamental principles that govern the natural and human worlds. Leonardo da Vinci passed away on May 2, 1519, in Amboise, France, leaving behind a legacy that was unparalleled in its scope and influence. His later years, marked by travel, mentorship, and continued creation, reflect a man who remained curious, inventive, and deeply engaged with life until the very end. The combination of intellectual rigor, artistic brilliance, and unquenchable curiosity in these final years cemented Leonardo's status as the quintessential Renaissance polymath, whose vision and contributions continue to inspire art, science, and engineering centuries later. Leonardo da Vinci's impact on the world extended far beyond his lifetime, shaping both the trajectory of art and science for centuries to come. His works and notebooks became a source of inspiration, study, and emulation, influencing countless artists, engineers, anatomists, and inventors. Leonardo's combination of careful observation, creative experimentation, and meticulous documentation set a new standard for intellectual inquiry during the Renaissance and laid the foundation for modern approaches to both art and scientific investigation. In the realm of art, Leonardo's mastery of anatomy, perspective, and the depiction of light and shadow transformed how artists approached their work. Painters such as Raphael, Michelangelo, and Caravaggio studied his compositions, adopting his techniques of sfumato and chiaroscuro to create depth, realism, and emotional intensity. Leonardo's insistence on observing nature directly and understanding the structure of the human body influenced anatomical studies in art, making figures more lifelike and dynamic than in previous centuries. Even centuries later, artists continued to study his sketches and paintings to grasp the subtle interplay of form, motion, and emotion that Leonardo had captured so effortlessly. Beyond art, Leonardo's notebooks profoundly affected the development of scientific thought and engineering. His detailed observations of anatomy, hydraulics, flight, and mechanics anticipated discoveries that would only be realized centuries later. Figures like Galileo Galilei, and Isaac Newton would eventually benefit from the scientific methodology Leonardo had practiced: careful observation, systematic recording, and iterative experimentation. His inventive sketches, from flying machines to intricate water systems, inspired engineers and inventors to explore new technologies, demonstrating how imagination coupled with analysis could lead to innovation. Leonardo also left an enduring pedagogical legacy through his mentorship of pupils such as Francesco Melzi and Gian Giacomo Caprotti Silai. These students not only preserved his work, but also helped disseminate his ideas across Europe. Through this transmission, Leonardo's approach to blending art and science influenced the curricula of academies, the methods of anatomical studies, and the philosophy of creative inquiry. His vision encouraged future generations to see the world not as a static series of forms, but as a dynamic system governed by patterns, forces, and relationships. Furthermore, Leonardo's life and work became a symbol of human potential, embodying the Renaissance ideal of the polymath, a person capable of mastering multiple disciplines through curiosity, discipline, and imagination. Writers, historians, and scholars have continually celebrated him as a model of interdisciplinary thinking, demonstrating that creativity and scientific rigor are not mutually exclusive, but complementary paths toward understanding the world. Leonardo's influence continues into modern times. Artists study his techniques, engineers draw inspiration from his inventions, and scientists examine his observations to understand the historical roots of their disciplines. Museums and institutions around the world preserve his notebooks, sketches, and paintings, allowing millions to witness the genius of a man whose insatiable curiosity and relentless pursuit of knowledge reshaped the boundaries of human achievement. In essence, Leonardo da Vinci's legacy is not limited to his lifetime. It is a living inspiration, demonstrating that the fusion of art, science, and imagination can illuminate the deepest mysteries of both nature and the human experience. Leonardo da Vinci's notebooks are among the most remarkable legacies he left behind, offering an unparalleled window into the mind of a genius. These notebooks, often referred to as codices, contain tens of thousands of pages filled with sketches, diagrams, scientific observations, engineering designs, anatomical studies, and philosophical musings. What makes Leonardo's notebooks extraordinary is not only their breadth of subject matter, but also the depth of insight and meticulous attention to detail they reveal. The notebooks reveal Leonardo's insatiable curiosity about the natural world. He meticulously studied the anatomy of the human body, dissecting cadavers to understand muscles, bones, and organs. His anatomical sketches are astonishingly precise, often accompanied by notes on how muscles contract or how blood flows through veins. Beyond human anatomy, he explored the physiology of animals, the flight of birds, and the movement of water, all in an effort to understand underlying principles that govern motion and life. These observations were often paired with detailed diagrams, showing Leonardo's unique ability to translate complex ideas into visual form. Leonardo's notebooks also document his inventive mind. He sketched early versions of machines such as helicopters, tanks, bridges, and intricate hydraulic systems. Many of these designs were centuries ahead of their time, demonstrating both his engineering ingenuity and visionary imagination. What sets these inventions apart is Leonardo's rigorous approach. He combined careful observation, mathematical calculations, and creative problem solving to design machines that were functional in theory, even if the technology of his era could not yet bring them to life. Writing in mirror script, Leonardo often wrote from right to left, making his notes more private and possibly easier for him as a left-handed writer. His notebooks are not organized in a linear fashion. Rather, they reflect the spontaneity of his thought, with sketches of flying machines alongside botanical studies, philosophical reflections, or musical notations. This nonlinear arrangement mirrors Leonardo's polymathic mind, in which art, science, and philosophy were intertwined rather than separate disciplines. Some of the most famous notebooks include the Codex Atlanticus, a massive compilation covering a wide range of subjects, and the Codex Leicester, which focuses on scientific studies of water, astronomy, and geology. Scholars and historians continue to study these documents, uncovering insights into Leonardo's methods, priorities, and vision. The notebooks also offer a glimpse into his personal reflections, revealing a man deeply concerned with understanding the mysteries of the universe, human perception, and the relationship between observation and knowledge. Leonardo's notebooks are more than historical artifacts. They are a treasure trove of creativity and intellect. They demonstrate how observation, experimentation, and imagination can combine to produce ideas far ahead of their time. By preserving these pages, Leonardo ensured that future generations could learn from his methods, gain inspiration from his inventions, and marvel at the extraordinary scope of his vision. Even centuries later, his codices continue to inspire artists, engineers, scientists, and thinkers, serving as a testament to the limitless potential of human curiosity and the enduring power of knowledge, documented with clarity, precision, and artistry. In the final chapter of his extraordinary life, Leonardo da Vinci journeyed to France at the personal invitation of King Francis I, a monarch deeply fascinated by the arts and sciences. The king recognized Leonardo not only as a master painter, but also as a visionary scientist and engineer, offering him the title of premier painter, engineer, and architect to the king. In 1516, Leonardo relocated to the Château du Clos-Lucé, situated near the royal palace of Amboise in the Loire Valley. The move marked a significant turning point in his life, providing him with a secure and serene environment in which he could continue his work while also enjoying the admiration and protection of the French court. The final years of Leonardo's life were characterized by a mixture of reflection, instruction, and continued creation. Despite his advancing age, he remained intellectually active, meticulously observing the natural world and refining ideas that had fascinated him for decades. Leonardo devoted time to teaching and mentoring, particularly his devoted pupil Francesco Melzi, who became the principal custodian of his manuscripts, sketches, and scientific observations. Leonardo's relationship with Melzi was deeply personal and professional. He entrusted Melzi with safeguarding his life's work, ensuring that his innovative ideas would survive long after his passing. Leonardo's productivity during his time in France encompassed both art and science. While he completed relatively few paintings in these final years, works such as the St. John the Baptist exemplify the mastery he maintained over composition, chiaroscuro, and the portrayal of human emotion. The painting demonstrates Leonardo's continued fascination with movement and life, revealing a subtle yet profound understanding of anatomy and the interplay of light and shadow. Each brushstroke reflects decades of painstaking study, capturing the essence of human presence with unmatched realism. Alongside painting, Leonardo dedicated himself to the further development of his scientific and mechanical studies. He produced sketches of intricate machines, explored theories of flight and hydraulics, and continued his detailed investigations into the anatomy of humans and animals. His notebooks from this period reveal a mind still driven by curiosity and discovery, blending artistic imagination with scientific rigor. Even as he aged, Leonardo's approach to knowledge remained holistic, seeing no division between art, engineering, anatomy, and philosophy. Life at the Château du Clos-Lucé allowed Leonardo to immerse himself in tranquil reflection. He observed the flowing waters of the Loire River, studied plants and wildlife, and contemplated the mysteries of nature and existence. Reports indicate that he often discussed philosophical ideas with members of the French court, demonstrating his enduring commitment to understanding the natural world and humanity's place within it. The serene environment offered by the French court was both a sanctuary and a source of inspiration, enabling Leonardo to consolidate his ideas and leave a legacy that transcended his own era. Leonardo da Vinci passed away on May 2, 1519, at the age of 67. Contemporary accounts suggest that he died peacefully in the presence of King Francis I, who mourned the loss of one of the greatest minds of the Renaissance. Leonardo's death marked the end of a life dedicated to curiosity, observation, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge, yet it also heralded the beginning of an enduring influence that would shape art, science, and engineering for centuries to come. After his passing, the preservation of Leonardo's work became a mission for Francesco Melzi, who carefully compiled the master's notebooks and sketches, ensuring that the depth of Leonardo's insight would reach future generations. These works, later dispersed and studied by scholars across Europe, became the cornerstone of his posthumous legacy. Leonardo da Vinci's final years in France stand as a testament to a life lived in the service of understanding and creation, a period of quiet reflection, mentorship, and continued exploration, demonstrating that the curiosity and imagination of a genius never truly fade, even with age. Leonardo's life, capped by his serene final years, reminds us that true genius is not measured solely by accomplishments, but by the unceasing pursuit of knowledge, the courage to imagine the impossible, and the commitment to sharing insights with the world. Even in death, Leonardo da Vinci continues to inspire awe and wonder, his vision of the interconnectedness of art, science, and human understanding remaining as relevant today as it was half a millennium ago. Leonardo da Vinci's influence did not end with his death. In fact, it only grew over the centuries, shaping the worlds of art, science, engineering, and human thought in ways few could have imagined. His work became a bridge between the medieval mindset and modern understanding, demonstrating that observation, experimentation, and imagination could unlock truths about both nature and human existence. In the realm of art, Leonardo's innovations were revolutionary. He perfected techniques such as fumato, a method of subtle gradation between light and shadow that created lifelike depth and emotion, and chiaroscuro, which allowed him to capture the dramatic interplay of light and dark. Masterpieces like the Mona Lisa and The Last Supper continue to captivate audiences, not only for their technical brilliance, but also for the profound humanity they express. Art historians today still study his compositions, brushwork, and use of perspective to understand the evolution of Renaissance art. Leonardo's ability to blend scientific observation with artistic expression inspired countless painters after him, from Raphael and Michelangelo to modern artists seeking to capture both realism and emotion. Beyond art, Leonardo's scientific and engineering contributions were far ahead of his time. His notebooks reveal sketches of flying machines, armored vehicles, hydraulic systems, and intricate anatomical studies, many of which were centuries ahead of practical implementation. While few of his inventions were built during his lifetime, they anticipated modern technology and influenced engineers, inventors, and scientists. Leonardo approached science through meticulous observation and experimentation, recording his findings in ways that demonstrated the interconnectivity of mechanics, anatomy, and natural forces. His studies of human anatomy, for instance, were unparalleled. His dissections and detailed sketches provided insights that would not be fully appreciated until much later, laying foundations for modern medicine. Leonardo's approach to learning, curious, interdisciplinary, and relentless, became the model of the Renaissance man, a person whose expertise spans multiple fields of knowledge. Scholars, educators, and innovators continue to celebrate Leonardo not just for individual achievements, but for the philosophy of curiosity he embodied. His life illustrates the value of asking questions, observing the world closely, and daring to imagine what others consider impossible. The legacy of Leonardo da Vinci extends into modern popular culture as well. From books and movies to museum exhibitions, his life and work continue to fascinate millions worldwide. His sketches, paintings, and notebooks are studied not only for historical insight, but also as inspiration for creativity, scientific inquiry, and artistic innovation. Institutions such as the Louvre, the British Museum, and the Uffizi Gallery preserve and display his work, ensuring that each generation can encounter the brilliance of his mind. Moreover, Leonardo's ideas about the relationship between art and science, imagination and observation remain remarkably relevant today. In engineering, robotics, aerospace, and even artificial intelligence, modern innovators often draw inspiration from his designs and conceptual thinking. Leonardo's method of combining careful study with visionary imagination has become a blueprint for problem solving and creativity, illustrating how one person's insight can transcend centuries. Leonardo da Vinci's enduring influence lies not only in the works he left behind, but also in the spirit of inquiry he championed. He exemplifies the belief that knowledge is boundless, that curiosity is essential, and that art and science are deeply interconnected. The Renaissance genius, who once wandered the hills of Tuscany and sketched the flight of birds, continues to inspire humanity, reminding us that the pursuit of understanding and the courage to dream are timeless endeavors. Through Leonardo da Vinci, the world learned that art can illuminate science, science can inspire art, and imagination can reshape the future, a lesson that remains as vital today as it was 500 years ago. His life, work, and ideas form a legacy so profound that they continue to resonate in every field where creativity, observation, and innovation intersect. Leonardo da Vinci's life is the story of a man who transcended his time, a genius whose curiosity, creativity, and intellect left a permanent mark on the world. From the rolling hills of Vinci, where he first observed nature with wonder, to the bustling cities of Florence and Milan, where he created masterpieces and invented astonishing machines, Leonardo's journey was one of relentless exploration and discovery. He was not just a painter, sculptor, or engineer. He was an observer of life itself, a thinker who sought to understand the invisible threads connecting all things. Throughout his life, Leonardo challenged the boundaries of human knowledge. He dissected bodies to reveal the hidden mechanics of the human form, designed machines that would not exist for centuries, and created paintings that captured the soul with unprecedented realism. His notebooks, filled with sketches, scientific diagrams, and philosophical reflections, reveal a mind that never stopped questioning, never stopped imagining, and never accepted the world at face value. He combined art and science, intuition and analysis, creativity and observation, showing that human potential is limitless when fueled by curiosity. Leonardo's legacy is not measured merely in paintings like the Mona Lisa or the Last Supper, nor solely in his visionary inventions, but in the spirit of inquiry and imagination he instilled in humanity. He taught the world that beauty can be understood scientifically, that science can be pursued artistically, and that knowledge is most powerful when it crosses disciplines. His life reminds us that the pursuit of understanding is never complete, that each discovery opens doors to new questions, and that creativity flourishes when guided by careful observation and deep reflection. Even centuries after his death in 1519, Leonardo's influence continues to resonate. Artists, scientists, engineers, and thinkers draw inspiration from his work, seeking to emulate his fearless curiosity and interdisciplinary brilliance. Museums display his masterpieces, scholars study his notes, and innovators look to his designs for ideas that were far ahead of his time. Leonardo da Vinci is in essence timeless, a symbol of human potential, and a beacon for those who dare to dream, explore, and create. The final lesson of Leonardo's life is profound yet simple. Never stop observing, never stop questioning, and never stop imagining. He demonstrated that true genius lies not only in talent, but in the courage to pursue knowledge across every boundary, to see connections where others see separation, and to strive always for understanding. Leonardo da Vinci's story is an enduring testament to the limitless possibilities of the human mind, a reminder that one person's vision can illuminate the world for generations to come. In the end, Leonardo did more than paint, invent, and study. He invited humanity to see the world with new eyes, to seek both beauty and truth, and to believe in the power of curiosity. His life stands as an eternal bridge between the past and the future, reminding us that through creativity, observation, and relentless inquiry, the human spirit can achieve the extraordinary. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through the life of Leonardo da Vinci, one of history's greatest geniuses. If you enjoyed learning about his art, inventions, and remarkable curiosity, don't forget to subscribe to Learn History While Sleeping for more fascinating stories about the people and events that shaped our world. By subscribing, you'll get to explore history in an easy, engaging, and unforgettable way, helping you discover the lives of remarkable figures like Leonardo da Vinci, all while enjoying content that makes learning history both fun and inspiring.